Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I am Patrick,
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
and that guy's Paul. I was actually going to say I am Paul tonight because it's April Fool's Day, but the last time I said that, it wasn't April Fool's Day, and it really was me just having a mental burp. I've called myself Paul on the intros when we used to record the show, as opposed to being live. I don't know how many times. I've signed off as you, I've introduced myself as you. Um,
You've you've done a lot of kind of impersonating myself. Sorry, I was just checking to see we're live.
I'm single white
Um,
femaling you. I take it we are live. Hi everybody out there,
yeah,
anybody
we're
who's
doing
joining us
well.
straight away.
We just we can see each other and we can hear each other, which is always a good sign.
Cool Abula. Well, folks, we haven't told you what the episode's about, but if you read the description or the title or whatever the hell it's called, you'll know. Basically, Snyder Cut happened. Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Release the Snyder Cut. Hashtag worked. Well, it was a bit deeper than that got it through. But we're asking the question, basically, should fans have so much power? Do they have too much power? Etc. 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 Paul, let's just answer it quickly and then end the episode after 2 minutes.
No and yes. There we go.
We'll have to go back over the questions because I can't remember what order I asked them in.
um, it's should we have the power and is it a good thing?
Well, I'll tell you what,
No and
to
yes.
set the table for people. The Snyder Cut. What is the Snyder
Hmm.
Cut for anybody who has no idea? I will throw up my Snyder Cut
Um,
imagery. Folks, the Justice League is essentially, for anybody who doesn't like comics or comic book movies, the Justice League you will probably know as the DC version of Marvel's Avengers. So it's the team up idea of superheroes on one side of the comic big boy players. They're the Batman and Superman people versus Marvel, who are the Iron Man, Captain America people, and Hulk people. What happened was, and shall we go back through the mists of time, Paul? Doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Joss Whedon came along and tried to make a. Paul, we've lost you there for a second, buddy.
yeah, I noticed. Hang on, I'm just trying to fix it.
He's coming back.
There we go.
Joss Whedon, who's on screen right now, famous for Buffy, for Angel, for Firefly, some great TV shows, and then famous for Marvel's big group or super group meetup, the Avengers. By the way, folks, I'm truly exhausted, which is why no words are ever going to come out in the right order tonight. Welcome to bad YouTube. But then something happened on the set of the Justice League that was very, very tragic. Zack Snyder's daughter passed away. He understandably took some time off. Now, I'm not getting into the whole, was he already kicked out? Did he leave because of that? I think it's distasteful to get into conspiracy theories about why Zack Snyder left the Justice League as it was. But essentially, Zack Snyder's out. Joss Whedon comes in to finish the Justice League and basically turn it into what he released, which was a 2 hour mess, in my opinion. It was what's obviously a much longer film chopped into smaller parts that had a bit of Joss Whedon humor, kind of injected into it quite harshly, that didn't really make a whole lot of coherent sense. It was a fine movie to sit through, but it's not something you were going to want to rewatch over and over again. I love Joss Whedon. I want it said. I love the work that he's done previously. I don't know the guy. I don't love him personally. He could be an asshole for all I know. But I do love the work he's done. Big Buffy Angel fan, big Firefly fan. Absolutely love the Avengers movie. So, Paul, once Joss was out, I'm going to throw up the guy, or Joss was in. The guy he was replacing. Snyder's up there. He's from the 300, Watchmen, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, like once he was replaced, um, Josh kind of came in and I like from my view, I think the studios probably came in and also kind of since they had the space, also probably came in and did some meddling and stuff like that.
Of
But
course.
Snyder Snyder is kind of the he was essentially the go-to person for the DC universe at this point,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I guess he like it's one of those things that you have a single director doing the franchise kind of thing. They have a vision, kind of thing, and they're very controlling of that vision and able to fight back any kind of studios to get to that vision. So yeah, essentially what happened was after the release of the Justice League, fairly close afterwards, Snyder came out and said, that's not the movie that I was going to make. Like,
well, that was whispered out there. He still maintains he's never seen the original movie, which I call BS on, by the way. Love Zack Snyder. Big fan of The Watchmen, one of my favourite films. I actually like Sucker Punch, for all of you out there who don't. I have not liked any of his DC movies up until the Snyder Cut, because I wasn't a fan of Man of Steel, and I thought one half of Batman versus Superman was good. Maybe he just can't do Superman. But yeah, it was made known that there should have been a Snyder version, and that what Joss Whedon and the studio got together and released was not the thing. So that brings us up to the point of everybody knowing there's a chance of a better or presumed better movie out there. This is where our topic kicks off, Paul. Because what happens with the fans at that point?
Well, they explode. Absolutely explode. Like, it became this huge, big juggernaut of a movement of trying to get the Snyder Cut released and everything like that. The studios were very much against it, kind of thing, because obviously they had just...
I'm going to need a little more mic, Paul. You're going to have to pull the mic a little closer, sorry.
Yeah, so what happened was essentially, the studios didn't want to really release a second one at all. They just wanted to continue on with their one, but the fans became such a juggernaut kind of thing and Snyder came out and said, yeah, like, you know, we'll do a director's cut if we need to be and stuff like that. And then, it became doable in the sense of there was enough fans there kind of pushing it. The studio saw an opportunity, and Snyder himself was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
And that, for me, Paul, is where this gets interesting. And we're not going to talk about the Snyder Cut for the whole thing, because this is really about fans, but just to kind of square that circle, Warner Brothers, as a lot of people would refer to it, which is why I used their logo. Warner Media, who are behind this, are owned by AT&T, a gigantic telecoms company. They don't necessarily agree on this, if everything's to be believed. And obviously Walter Hamada and everybody involved in Warner Media had decided, okay, Zack Snyder is the thing of the past. We asked Joss Whedon to step in for a minute. We've got our own plans with our Robert Pattinson Batman. We've got our own plans with all the rest. This is not, Zack Snyder was no longer their guy. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. It was allegedly AT&T that came along and said, yeah, but the fans want it, really want it. We've got HBO Max now to do this on, and we can force you all to do it thanks to the circumstances that are coming together. So there was a lot of business decision behind this, but it was by no means harmonious, which will be relevant later when it comes to what do we think the fallout from this is going to be. Because I think the fallout will be similar to its inception. I think Warner are going to try and kill it, and AT&T are probably going to come along and go, yeah, well, I think we'll see. We listened to the fans last time and it worked out pretty well. We might be listening to them again. Yeah.
So going on about this, it's essentially that the fans drove us. The studio eventually listened, with backing from big company, and that's where we are now. Now, the problem with this, the reason that we're doing the Power of the Fans is because this isn't the first kind of, I guess, time that this has happened.
No.
We've also had Deadpool, which is probably the originator of this whole trend and stuff like that. With the release or the leak of the kind of Deadpool stuff, it ended up becoming a juggernaut as well. The fans backed it, and within a day, which is the studio greenlit it. They contacted Ryan Reynolds and his team and was just like, yep, we want to do it, kind of thing. So this is the problem. When this is worked out twice now.
Yeah, arguably it's worked out in smaller ways in other cases. Like, fan backlash can stop people making mistakes as well, and I think Sonic's a good example of that. I haven't seen the movie, but I did see the original trailer and the new and improved trailer, and I was like, I know which one of those I'd want to see if I was going to see this movie, and it was definitely the new improved Sonic. But yeah, I think to be fair, you're right. Deadpool, when they leaked, when the accident happened that they leaked it out, brilliant bit of marketing and a bit of pressure for the studios. I think that resulted in one of the most original and interesting films in the last 20 years. That definitely worked out. I like the Snyder Cut a hell of a lot more than I like the Whedon Cut, let's call it. And I like my Sonic not to be creeping me the hell out. So it can work, but it can also go absolutely arseways.
Yeah, this is like so far we're slightly 3 for 3, kind of thing. But that's not going to be always the case.
No.
So like, how much should a studio listen to the fans and stuff like that? Like, is it something that if it was niggling them, like if it was sitting there going like in the back of their head going, nah, I don't like this, and then the fans start talking out, is it that they went, look, I already kind of wanted this to change. Now we've gotten the fans to say it. Let's just go with the fan. Like, let's go with that. Or is it one of those things where it is literally just pressure? Do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I think this sword cuts both ways. Obviously, fans can either get it right or get it wrong, but also I think they can not realize that they're pressuring two different groups at two different times, because the studio itself, they don't care about anything after money as much as they care about money. The creatives care about the vision and the story more than the money. So if somebody releases something, a trailer that fans don't like, and they revolt against it and say, I want all this changed, they can put pressure on the studio to change it, but who they might actually really be fighting with are the creatives. They can't always assume that, this was studio meddling that made Sonic ugly, or, resulted in the Justice League. I think, I don't know if fans have too much power. I just know that I don't trust fans to cohesively know who they're even putting pressure on. Like, I think it's a very loose shotgun. And I think creatives are the people who can live and die by the art that they make. If they make something that's a commercial failure, that's a business problem. If they make something that's, everybody hates, then that's a failure in their commercial side of the art as well. But if they make something that they can respect and stand over, then I think they should make it, even if I don't like it. It's not necessarily that they should make something that I like. It's that if they can make something brilliant and I like it, they'll be successful. But should I have a say in who plays the next Superman? I don't know. I don't think I should.
Yeah, like it's like, where does the book stop with fan kind of feedback? Is it because like this is crowdsourcing plots, and that could be dangerous. It's very difficult for anyone, especially of a passionate audience or passionate fan base, to properly agree on a lot of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess in the context of what it is essentially a recut like this a good idea, in it, just at the face value of it. Is it a good idea or is it not, from the creative and from the studio point of view?
You know what? Let's put that question out there and answer it after we look at the comments, because then we can put it back to ourselves and it'll give people a little time to think about it, including me. But your question that we're coming back to is, on principle, is doing a recut of something like this and releasing it a good idea?
From the creative side and from the studio side.
Well, let's check those comments and come back if that's okay then, because I think it's a really good question to kind of dive into the next section of the show. Okay, so we've got by the way, Irish Barrer, brilliant commenter, by the way, reading back comments last week, some of the stuff we missed as well. Thank you very much for the support. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Good to see some regulars. Chris Nolan told Snyder not to watch it. I would say everybody in the universe at the time was just saying don't watch the Justice League, and they weren't just saying it to Zack Snyder. Superman is tough, to be fair. Sonic could improve. Yeah, Superman's a tough one to get right. And I've never been. I'm always a bit more Batman than Superman anyway. Director's cuts have been around for a few decades. Aliens had. Yeah, director's cut is a slightly different thing than doing a whole re-release. We should probably cover director's cuts in a little bit as well. Or do you want to talk about it now?
Well, I guess in this context, like, although they say that the Snyder Cut is the director's cut, technically he wasn't he was only the director for half of the movie.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's a little bit different kind of thing, because technically this is a re-release. This is a re-release under new editing, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where a director's cut. So you've got your Apocalypse Now reduxes or your Alien, director's cuts. That's here's the movie I had to make that was short enough to go into cinema, but I still made it and I still released it. Here's the version that if I'd been given more time or had more opportunity, here's what I would have made. Whereas this is a completely different story altogether. So yeah, which is why, I suppose you should bring it up now. There's another thing. I'll switch over and use the last of our images. There's a thing called the Suicide Squad. Actually, sorry. There was a movie called Suicide Squad, and there's now going to be one called The Suicide Squad. See previous episode where that annoys me. And David Ayer made the first Suicide Squad. That movie was a mess. And it does from the outside look like that movie was a mess because of studio meddling. Like it even has that feel about it. So it's very believable that if David Ayer was allowed to do an Ayer cut, that it would be better. But there's the thing. His would be a director's cut. It wouldn't be like the Snyder cut of the Justice League. It would just be him getting to go back and retell. Unless he comes out and says, yeah, this is so different because the studio actually recut this thing for me, if there's any truth to that rumor. So it all gets very, very confusing.
That's the Suicide Squad is a bit of a weird one, because I do remember the story of having all of the jokes in the trailer, and then they realized how much people really enjoyed them, and was just like, we should probably have more in our movie than just the ones that were in the trailer. I remember that kind of rumor going on.
There's nothing like, can we have 3 tones in our movie, please? That's a real cohesive way to make your art.
I do have to say that, out of the Snyder Cut, there is a joke that I do really miss, and it is a very Josh Whedon joke, and I do miss it. It's the Flash, when Flash is talking about the Pet Cemetery thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's just like, yeah, they don't have that. I wish they continued. That joke was funny, and I think it should have kept going, because it made Flash feel like a more light-hearted character, because he is in most of the other kind of sources, and that made him kind of more and then when he sees Superman and he's just like, Pet Cemetery, it's a really good joke. I
enjoyed the callback part of when he sees Superman. You're right, it did work, but you're right, it felt like Joss Whedon's hand on a piece of paper as you're hearing it. So yeah, if it had made it true, I would say it would stick out a mile, because it feels so Whedon-y in a Snyder film.
Yeah, I just wish they just kept it in anyway. So back
to the question. Well, we can come back to the comments in a while. So to the question, Paul, my secret move there was, we go to the comments, and now I get to repeat the question, and you get to answer it first, even though you asked it. So
that's what we're gonna do. Is it a good idea to do a recut or a re-release of a movie for the creatives and for the studio? For the studio, yeah, it's a no-brainer. They're not going to spend large amount of money on essentially re-releasing it and stuff. The fan base is already generating enough kind of marketing advertisement stuff that they didn't need to do much, because it just anything they put out, it just spread like wildfire. They just need to go to their Twitter account and go, here's a picture, and then the universe was just like gobble gobble gobble, kind of thing. Releasing it just gives them more money, and also drives more people to the 2 places that they can make money, which is HBO Max and also Sky.
You've got COVID as a factor. You've got the fact that they're trying to get HBO off the ground, HBO Max off the ground in a post Disney Plus world. It was win from a business point of view. It was going to work one way or the other from a business point of view, because they didn't really have anything to lose, and they had a whole load of gain. As you're right, people were going to eat this up.
Yeah, like that's the thing. So as
Creatively,
the
Paul.
creators, no, it's not a good idea. It's not even because I really like Josh Whedon, and essentially now people have Josh Whedon's head on a block in a lot of ways because he's taking the brunt of this because fans, once again, a lot of fans won't read into too much. They'll just be like, Josh Whedon did this, and it's just like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think like everything was his fault. I think he was
No.
given essentially he was brought in halfway through production and was told and probably then ordered around by the like studio
He was
because
definitely
like
given some targets that were unrealistic, I think.
because like he just came off the Ultron like train, and that was like he already told how much the studio started meddling in that. So like he was probably kind of just sick of it and just probably just went, yeah, it's just easier just to go with what you want, you know?
He'd been browbeaten
Like
into just going with studio execs telling him what to do.
yeah,
Yeah, you never
and
know.
then of course, and then the whole part is then going, yeah, put some Josh Whedon humor in there. So you know, he also did that kind of thing, and he was just like, that's probably the only parts that he probably enjoyed.
I
From a
just
creative point, I don't. It's not a good
sorry,
idea.
it's not. No, it isn't a great idea. I agree with you on both points, but why isn't it a great idea? If you know what I
From the
mean, like
creative side,
yeah, what's the big downside here? Because two different people
like
can tell the same story. We wouldn't have a problem with that. Two different people can take the same idea and tell two different stories. I guess where I would come from a creative point of view is that's how you have to do that. You have to let them both tell separate stories their way. I think it gets very, very messy when you do something like this and it's all using the same Lego pieces to try and put it back together in two different ways because no one's ever going to talk about either the Joss Whedon version or the Zack Snyder version without comparing them to each other. And that's not what this should be about.
yeah, no, that's it's not cool. It's not cool to directly put them against each other in the sense. Like, I don't mind. I don't mind when you remake something.
Mm.
Like that's the thing is remaking, like you know, like remaking something is essentially taking source material and then just doing it your own way, but it's doing it pretty much from base zero to the finished product.
Yeah.
The only parts that you have is essentially just the storyline. This is essentially just taking all the footage again and just redeveloping it, which is and it's just like I completely agree. The using reusing the Lego blocks, the same Lego blocks, it's a really bad idea for as from a creative side because it brings two people in direct competition. And I'll be honest with you, if it comes down to it, when people go, well, who do you prefer, Zack Snyder or Josh Whedon? I'm going Josh Whedon. Like if you had to, like, and I don't mean in the term of this movie,
Yeah.
but it's
You
getting the
mean?
question out there of who is the better director.
Mm. I
You
got to
know,
be honest with you. I didn't even consider that question, and I'm not sure how I'd answer it right now because they've both got pros and cons. But what I will say is, I'm glad that they released the Zack Snyder version because he's the one that started, and I'm glad that he got to show his thing. One of my main kind of, and I'm with you that creatively it's a bit bankrupt to have it happen. I'm glad that he obviously had a vision and he got to do it. I am really sorry that it just wasn't much more low key. Like if this had been one of those things where, with all the footage that I shot, I never got to cut my movie together. 10 years later, I'm getting to cut my movie together. We're getting to release it. But this juggernaut of everybody assuming, yes, he has a movie. Well, he did have a movie in mind. That's true. Did he have everything shot? Turns out, no, he didn't. It took another 80 million quid and a bit of time to do this. So it wasn't like it was just sitting on the shelf. So he wasn't exactly like, here's, pulling a VHS out of a sleeve going, yeah, okay, we're going to release this now.
yeah,
For hundreds of good reasons. But I think, and this is why I want to lead it back to what we're talking about, I think fans are scary, scary people. I think there's a scary side to fandom that we can't overlook. I think it's great, and people always go, well, commerce is king. Put your money where your mouth is, support things, and then they'll happen. Fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. But this idea that if you shout loud enough and shout at people hard enough, and gang up and group up and downvote or, Rotten Tomato bomb something. I don't know if that's something that I really want as part of an already tricky creative business process, because it's tough enough for directors and studio execs to get along to make the right decisions without both of them being distracted by everybody else who hasn't been involved from the start going, well, this is what I heard and that's what I'd now like to see. Like, can you imagine if, Godzilla versus Kong that came out, if somebody had heard way back, oh well, they're gonna have a Godzuki, the little Godzilla kid thing in it,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the Scrappy Doo of the Godzilla world, and just lost their mind and like boycott Kongzilla. They haven't even made it yet. You're angry about
Yeah.
something. But chill, everybody, chill. Give out after the fact, not before.
Yeah, like that's yeah. The fan bases for a lot of movies are now. Movie fans are very polarized and easy to rive up in a lot of ways, kind of thing. Which is as you said, scary in the sense of for a creative because yeah, all it takes is like everybody because studios only work off money and data, and data doesn't tell a story. It just shows data. Like it just shows how like it's like an on or off switch with that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So like, but from a creative point of view, it's just like, well, actually, the fans decided just that they hate me, so they decided to bomb the creativeness of us, kind of thing.
Well,
So
you brought up a good
it's
example of because like I think fans should have a voice, and I love fandom uh, exercising that voice. I even like fans congregating, getting together, and communally expressing a voice. I don't have a problem with movements. It's not even as slapdash as that. I have a problem with the entitlement of because we've asked we should see, and then the anger that comes if there's even a hint that they mightn't, and preemptive anger and there's a hint that they're not listening to us. This is unacceptable. I I shouldn't be allowed, and as far as I'm concerned, Paul, me and you shouldn't be allowed to pick the next cast for the Fantastic Four movie, or for the next Ghostbusters movie, or recast Indiana Jones in the future, or anything. But we should be allowed to make a YouTube video about it, have fun, have our ideas, have our thoughts, have them stolen by creatives and studio execs who never have to credit us, because I know they're listening, Paul. Too many of our ideas have started showing up on the silver screen.
I know.
Either that or we're psychic. I'm fine with people exercising their voice. I'm doing it now. Were you
Yeah.
psychically tickling analytics? Like, subscribe. Yeah, I know. I'm worried that there's an angry, harsh wing, and you made a point before we went on air that I'd love you to make on air of some of the darker side of where this can go. Sometimes the wrong fans have the loudest voice.
Yeah, like that's so as part of this whole fandom thing, I have a problem. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna say a couple of words and people are probably gonna explode, but I'm gonna do this first. I'm conflicted for the new Ghostbusters film. I'm glad we're getting it, but I don't think we deserve it. I don't think we deserve it at all. Now, I'm really happy about the fact that the family of the original writer has decided to take on the mantle, and it really feels like, a good thing. I just wish it happened before the 2019 one or 16 one, and for because it was a bad film, not because of any other reason, you know. But my problem is the people who are the loudest to the people who are the loudest out of the fans to not like the 2016 Ghostbusters.
And can we just be clear that the 2016 Ghostbusters is the all-female cast with
Yeah,
Melissa McCarthy and Saturday Night Live alumni, who are all excellently talented people who made a movie that didn't turn out well. And I think we can all agree good people ended up making a bad movie. Not necessarily on any one of the cast, maybe a bit more in the writing, editing department that let it down. But good people, bad movie, that happens all the time.
yeah, like that's the thing. You can't, as actors, you can't really like. I know there was a fair amount of improv, but that's also a bad thing in the sense that there is a script there, and allowing people to improv, but also having the scripts to fall back on is how that kind of really works. It's kind of like we've worked on these jokes. But if you can come up with a better one, then we can use that one. Oh, you haven't come up with a better joke. We're going to use the script. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how improv within movies works, really. But they seem to just press this improv thing a little bit too much and stuff. But
I cut in on you there just to make sure that people knew it was the female-led Ghostbusters that you're referring to, and I think you're about to, before I cut you off, you were about to talk about the loudest voices might have been not good people.
Well, they were the ones who didn't like the all female cast. The loudest fans complaining about the movie were the ones who said that they hate the fact that all the Ghostbusters are female, which is bullshit.
And pointed to that as the reason why it was bad. It's like, oh, because they had to go and gender swap the whole thing. Of course it's crap. And that was not cool. That was not cool. No. I can't think of a better phrase right now because I have a lot of strong things to say about it, but not cool.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It was like it's just stupid. Like we can look at any movie and be just like, yeah, the jokes didn't land, and the writing wasn't great. This plot was a bit weird, kind of thing. They habdashedly put in the original cast and stuff like that. Like as I said, there's better ways in doing it. You could literally have done a Ghostbusters multiverse thing there, and then having the ghost thing kind of like, bring them all together, or at least give them a view of the old Ghostbusters or something, something cool. But this was pointedly just pointing at an all-female cast and was going, the movie was shit because they're in it. And you're just like, and because their voice was the loudest, it feels like it opened the door for the studio to be just like, okay, people want a Ghostbusters film and they want it good. So when they were approached with this new script of a new Ghostbusters, they jumped at it. And if that's where I don't feel like we deserve it, in the sense that the loudest voices that have opened the door for this new one is being the ones who are sexist.
And this is where we disagree ever so slightly, because I think we do deserve it, and I don't. And obviously, when you say we don't deserve it, you don't mean me, you, and all of our wonderful watchers, listeners, and commenters, because they're not all the bad people that we're talking about, essentially. But you're saying in general, we don't deserve it because that element could have had too loud a voice and had an influence. Here's my thinking, though, and this is where I agree, but diverge slightly. I love Ghostbusters. Like, I love Ghostbusters. Really love Ghostbusters, the movie. You can look at our old teaser trailer breakdown for Ghostbusters and you can see how nuts I was going. That's the one we stayed up all night. We watched and edited it that night because it was like, it has to go out. I love this thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was really pumped when I heard about the cast in particular of the 2016 Ghostbusters. I was expecting it to be good. I watched it and thought it was bad. Because it is. It's a bad movie. It was badly made. It's just that simple. I thought, but there's no reason to say, well, that's killed the Ghostbusters franchise. Because I never viewed it as a franchise anyway. It's a property, sure. You can use it. You don't even have to make it a franchise. You can go and you could do 10 Ghostbusters reboots. I don't mind. It's not going to take away the original. But those people that said the bad things about it for the wrong reason and said, oh, it's because it's female led. Those people would have existed and they would have been shouting, even if it was a good movie. If it had been a great movie, there would have been the same numpties running around shouting their mouths off on the internet going, yeah, but like I still think it's crap, or oh, but it would have been better if they'd actually had, if they got Bill Murray back. They would have come up with a new line of crap, but it all would have ended with silly just have it girls. I think those venomous scumbags still would exist out there, and I think they probably still would have spoken. And here's the thing, I think we deserve it because the studio wouldn't have listened to them then, because everybody else would have said it was good. And I'm assuming right now that the studio didn't listen to them this time either, because it's not just them that said it was bad. We deserve another Ghostbusters. We never deserve anything. But if you want to make another one, I say go for it. And if they're saying there's obviously an appetite and we missed, I'm not assuming they listened to the dinguses, because I think they could have ignored them.
But this is the thing is, they always exist. I never it's a given. They're a constant kind of thing. They were the loudest voices against this movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing, and they, although the studio might not have listened to the fact that they were being sexist, it's
Mm.
the fact is that they listened to them in the hunger for another film.
Mm. Well,
And because they were the loudest voice in on the internet complaining about this.
cannot argue with
So
that at all. Cannot argue with that
that's
at
where
all.
my that's where my thing comes from. As in, like, it might not be the fact that they listen to the sexist part. It's the fact is that they listen to them
Mm.
hungry for a new film that's good.
Well,
And it's so soon was it also announced.
yeah, yeah. And, you know,
Like,
there are some issues there as well. And like, I don't get me wrong. I'm not deaf to what you're saying. It's a bit of a, oh, this didn't work. Everybody hated it, and look, we're going to fix it all now by doing what you wanted. Kind of lets those scumbags win a little bit. I don't feel that in my bones. I hate that that's part of it, but I don't think that they can be allowed to have any effect. I'd almost be like if somebody said, "Well, we're not going to do another one because we don't want those guys to win." I'd be like, "To hell with that. That's letting them win too." So there's no right timing. There's no right action.
oh,
I think the best thing they can do now is make another good movie, but very much I would say I would love this to happen. I would love them to try and make another Ghostbusters after this that is female led. Actually make it a good movie. Like that's how you silence those people so that then they look stupid. Because doing something or not doing something because of them, I don't think they deserve any influence either way.
no. So, like, my thing is that it's not that when I say we don't deserve it, I more mean the fact is that because it was announced so soon, that's the one we don't deserve. Like, if they
I
were
understand.
like, let's just wait a little longer, let this whole thing die down and then announce it, I would have been like, I think a lot of people would be just like, this is fine,
Hmm.
kind of thing. I don't think anyone, in fact, I don't think even the idea of the 2019 being an all-female cast would have come into my head for the reason that this was being made,
I get you.
kind of thing. I but so, like, I do disagree that there isn't a timing thing to this.
Yeah.
It's because they announced so fucking soon after.
I guess we both maybe just have a slightly different. I think the idea that Ghostbusters was on everybody's lips was, but you know, all press is press for these business people.
I
So they're like,
like
this stuff's hot right now. I don't care if people, some people in boardrooms, as you well know, because we've been in the same boardroom actually. Some people in boardrooms will just be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't really care if it's good or bad, but it's hot, right? So you know, yeah, okay. But to your point, I take it completely. And I guess for me, the biggest bit of rage I have is I never want these people to have any power. So I would be fine with it being announced a minute after the other one or 10 years after the other one, just because I hope no one ever gives them any kind of consideration, those people. Because I think they're the people on the internet that we're talking about that can ruin anything. They really are. You know, can't have nice things because of those people. That's it. I think your point's a good one, Paul, but I'm really worried now because we've got to go to our own comment section. And what if
yeah, I
when we
know.
go there, there's just going to be a bunch of people going, "Yeah, women shouldn't be allowed to make movies." That will be a bit of a surprise if it happens.
It will be. I will
Because
say.
our commenters are usually great. Do you want to pick up somewhere from I don't know the middle?
Well,
There's been
from
a lot.
the Suicide Squad was a mess because they needed to emulate the Guardians of the Galaxy, so it was built on the floor up, having all the people in it instead of natural building in it. Yeah, like, I agree. I agree with that. There's, like, I do think that there was meddling there, where they were just like, they didn't realize it's the fact is not that they had to emulate the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a it eventually became the expectation of everybody that it should. I think because they were going dark with it, like they go with dark with everything else, and like, until the fans saw the jokes and were just like, actually, the jokes are really good, kind of thing. They were just like, oh, we have to put these in, and then they did a whole bunch of reshoots with more jokes, and because of the tone and the tone and visuals don't really match up because they had made a dark film and then put jokes in after. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the. It's not the only, but it's one of the biggest fall downs of the first Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
idea that the air cut turned into, like we were saying earlier, a multi-tonal mess because they came back and were like, oh, you couldn't give it a little bit more of this. It's like, oh, this is almost cooked here, folks. This is going in one flavor profile. You want to add a whole lot of sugar to the salt? What's going on? I'm going to call out Ethan. Hey, how you doing? Nailed one thing that we didn't mention. What people don't understand is not all director's cuts will be good. That's a very good and valid point, but not a reason for directors not to get to release their cut. Again, it's not about whether or not it's good or bad. It's about whether or not somebody had something to say with it. And that's one of the reasons I saw, I think Kev or one of the others said, you know what? People wouldn't be in as much love with the Snyder Cut had the Joss Whedon version not been as bad or never been released. Absolutely agree. And that's the part of the problem with that comparative nature of having them both. Whereas at least with a director's cut, a direct director's cut, you can have that conversation like me and Paul do about whether or not the original or the director's cut's better, or what should have stayed, or what we would have done, or what we would keep from them both. And everybody in their head then makes the perfect film out of either half of the theatrical and half the director's cut.
Like I feel like that's the way it should be done, not automatically comparing the two directors, which is a bit.
Can I take one? Because I caught the word "release the poo cut," and I had to read up to wonder what it was. That's Kevin saying, I hear Kong was going to throw his own poo in it. Yeah, I you know what? I'm not big into the whole hashtags for movies that are already released, but I would like to see the poo cut now.
Let's get it trending.
Yeah, get it trending, everybody.
Social media equals unnecessary anger. Yeah, it's essentially just a shield in front of your face that you could just pour bile into the internet and feel good. Feel that like little bit of weight coming off your shoulders, and then someone on the other side of the planet reads it and feels the weight more on their shoulders. So that's what it feels like.
That's it. The toxic ones are usually the loudest. Casey Wonder Kev says I really liked the 2016 Ghostbusters. Good for you. There was plenty of good jokes in it. It was just its cohesive nature is maybe where I felt it let itself down so badly. It looked like it was edited by accident at times.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't like the secretary joke, which is the only part that I really didn't like about the film, which was one of the major parts that I didn't like about the film.
Oh, there's so much that I felt was wrong with the movie that I wouldn't be able to cut it down to that one thing, to be honest.
No, it's not the only thing. It's just a big thing. I really didn't like the fact that they were brought. But Kate McKinnon, yeah, favorite part of that film. I will watch anything that she's in.
She and you know what? Everybody should on Saturday nights with Saturday Night Live, because she's still excellent. Although Cecily Strong, other cast member, just shouting it out there because I know you're a viewer. God, I would love it if Cecily Strong watched us. I happen to think that she may be taking the mantle as the funniest person on SNL for the last 5 years. Really knocking it out of the park. Social media is not all fan bases are toxic. Somebody pointed that out. That's true too. And this isn't about us bagging on fans or fan bases or fan movements or fan feedback. There is a small subset of people who can ruin anything. And I guess the problem is social media amplifies those voices, and it allows people to get together with nefarious reasons or for nefarious reasons. And like we're saying, if the studio is listening at the wrong time, then that'll work badly. You got any more you want to call out, Paul?
I hate the hate before the film released. Thinking of John Carter, I also really like John Carter. Sword Bikini Princess, maybe an old trope, but it's a nice one. See, this is the interesting thing. Just to get my 2 cents in, the time machine with
Pierce.
Yeah, that's his name.
Samantha Mumba and Guy Pearce.
Yeah, I think that is like a weird film in the sense that it is so weirdly out of time.
Nobody's going to remember that movie. Like, I'm weird that I remember that movie. Does anybody else remember that Time Machine movie?
The Time Machine, because there was the original
Time
Machine.
Did people hate it or something? Or
people hated that film? Like, it was one of those films, like it's.
Oh.
Yeah, people hated that film, and I really feel like John Carter also suffered from the same thing, which is people didn't take the context of the film like in the way that it should, not the context, but the kind of like this is a story about like a Civil War soldier being transported to Mars and fighting a Martian war. It's kind of just like this is classic sci-fi stuff. Like this is like
Well,
C.S.
when you say it
Lewis,
like that.
kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people took those things. I think a lot of people took those things out of kind of like took it from a new age of kind of like, oh, I wanted Interstellar, but I got John Carter, and I'm just like, you went to the wrong movie, like. So
I'll be honest with you as well. We've got to address the elephant in the room after some more comments. We've got to talk about the best meaning fans in the world sometimes not knowing that maybe they're not being inclusive to future fans. We're going through a bit of a problem with that in motorsport at the moment.
Yeah.
But just before we do, let's grab a couple of last ones. I believe in equal rights. Hey, just there's a good one for everybody. By the way, anybody out there who's like, oh, these are all just liberals. This is not about liberal, conservative, or any of that stuff. This is not us on a soapbox of equality or anything. Ghostbusters 2016 was crap, in my opinion. We're talking about people being assholes. Those two things are separate, and they're mutually exclusive in this case. Problem about reboots and remakes is everyone compares them to the original. Again, that comparison thing is a problem.
See, but this is my thing. I don't mind that. I don't mind remakes being compared to the originals because that's always how it's going to be done. It's the fact is that the Josh Whedon and the Snyder Cut are practically the same movie, and this is where the comparison comes in. Where I'm just like, this is a difficult thing.
It's a complicated one for sure.
So
also, I have to admit, John Carter, I've never watched all of. I watched about 10 minutes of it and thought, well, this isn't going well, and I actually had to do something else, which is very rare for me, Paul. As you know, I never start a movie that I'm not going to finish. So it's one of the few movies that I haven't finished. I've watched entire 7-series TV shows that I didn't like, and I've watched all 7 series. That's how weird I am. But I've never gone back to rewatch John Carter. Is it worth it?
I think I liked it. If you take it in the context of like heavy metal or something like that, or like, as I said, classic sci-fi kind of thing, you'll enjoy it.
Cool.
Kind of thing. It's like watching a book.
Yeah, I never enjoyed Taylor Kitsch, the lead actor guy. Sometimes you just don't gel with somebody. And I think the film maybe I can't even remember the first 10 minutes that well. I think there was a bit of a jumping up and down moment to do with gravity that just came off and played a little bit wonky for me. I vaguely remember that. But the film could have been absolutely stellar after that, so I should go back and give it a go.
I definitely get that, because like him as Gambit was a bit weird, and then him in Battleships, which was also weird. But it's a fun movie if you take it Battleships. I love the fact that the amount of comedy humor that came, like comedy stuff that came out of just doing, let's just make a movie like Minesweeper and stuff like that. Just the fan-based films because of the announcement of Battleships.
I know.
Great.
Let's make a game out of Snap the card game. I want us to get back to it, but I want to say thank you all for the comments. I love John Carter just for fun. Watch John Carter on Disney Plus. Ethan, it's on Disney Plus. I certainly will. Do you know what? I think that might be the weekend movie. I'd love to give it a go. A very good friend of mine, Joe, if you're watching this out there, he told me to watch it, and he's like, you'll love it. I was like, really? And he's like, no, you will. So I fully believe that I'll probably end up liking it, because Paul, I have a pretty good track record of taking things for what they're meant to be. I don't think, and this is where we have to talk about the elephant in the room, I don't think fans or people who have an agenda or an opinion should hear a little bit about something and then decide what it should or shouldn't be, or decide that this is a racist movie. It's like, have you seen it? No, but I heard X, Y, Z. Oh, that's not a good idea. Stop yourself right there. But then there's the easier thing and the safer thing for us to talk about in one way, but also it's the internet, so maybe not. We've talked a lot about comic book and comic adjacent properties tonight, Paul. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say the dangerous line so you don't have to. Comic book fans who are really into the material don't necessarily understand that just because that's the way they see it, or the way it was written down in their favorite version, don't necessarily understand that if you do that, no one else who's never heard of this will ever want to see it. They can be very single-minded and not realize you have to bend a little sometimes in the cinematic universes to be more inclusive. gain new fans that can then go back and see your version of Wolverine, or go back and see your version of the Scarlet Witch, or Juggernaut, or whoever it is that they did wrong for you. Believe me, I know this, because right now there are people saying that you shouldn't watch Formula One unless you've watched it for, best part of 50 years like me. And that's crazy. Because you can start now, and you can gain what you like from it, or leave what you don't like from it. Not everybody has to have the same experience.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, it's also different mediums. Like, you're thinking of, like, from a comic book source material kind of way, you have issues upon issues upon issues of years and years and years of being able to build up a character inside your head. You've got hundreds of storylines and everything like that to try and build up this character. And then the cinema only has, it's a different medium and only has 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they are also trying to be accessible to new people that come in. So they need to build it up. Like, I like the fact now that Spider-Man doesn't need an origin story, because they're just like, everybody's seen it. Yeah. Like, we've done this like 2 or 3 times now. This is just done now. Okay. So we don't, that's a really nice, that shows a little bit also that the fan base is so wide, that Spider-Man is so well known, that they're just like, no more origin stories.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yet they keep killing the bloody Waynes, don't they?
Oh my God. I don't know what the Waynes did to the Warner Brothers family, but they've definitely done something. Like, did they try to buy them out or something like that? Or
I know.
But I've gotten that from the Formula One crew, because I've like in a recent kind of thing, and I definitely think it was because Drive to Survive, because I started watching Formula One before Drive to Survive.
Yeah, before the first season, in fact. Yeah, it was about 6 months before.
And then Drive to Survive came out, and then suddenly I've been chucked in with a bunch of, like, I'm not saying I'm different to those fans. It's just more the fact is that I was chucked into, oh, you just watched Drive to Survive, and that's why you like Formula One. And I was just like, And I started before.
And anytime I hear somebody say something like that, I'm like, yeah, great, okay, cool. Then that's why they're watching it. Good for them, and I hope I get to have a chat with them, because now somebody else likes the thing I like. It's a wider conversation for me. I love talking to people who don't like the thing I like, because I get to talk about the thing I like. It's all pretty straightforward. But my one argument, and if anybody out there in comic fandom right now is cursing my name for what I said, think back to the Richard Donner Superman in spandex. What is the most faithful telling of Superman in a lot of ways? It was Christopher Reeves in Superman the movie. It was a pretty good, from anybody I've spoken to at the time, it was a pretty good representation as far as what you could get into a movie theater. But that did not kick off at the DCEU or the MCU, or what you now have today, which is, and I know there's one of our commenters in here who's like, oh God, I'm so sick of comic book movies taking over the entire cinema, because it's not their interest or their background. And I don't blame you, dude. I don't blame you. If it's not your thing, then it must be a tough time to be alive. But the Donner Superman didn't do that, because it treated it differently. Part of the thing about treating it differently, as you say, context here. Batman, as in Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, these things took a shot at it. The X-Men movies, Blade, these things took a shot at doing it their way too. They didn't go, we're going to do the thing that we actually think, the Sunday paper crowd, the people who are like, oh, well, sure, comics, anything that's a comic is just a comic. Or people who used to call The Simpsons just a cartoon, because they couldn't understand it was a show, because it's animated. Like, sure, that's just cartoons, that must be for kids. It's like, well, you wanna listen to what they're saying, because it's not all just for kids. Same thing. All the spandex in the world, I have no problem with, but you can't hold on to it too tight. You have to let people introduce the idea to the world. And thanks to, Blade and the aforementioned X-Men and everything else, and the Nolan films and Iron Man, the entire world now knows that comic books are books first, comics second. They're telling stories. The medium of how they tell them and the colorization that they use may look one way to you, but it really is just good storytelling. Now tell me that things aren't faithful enough to the comics, because who cares? You're getting so much and so good that it's all just good storytelling. Why not change what needs to be changed to get more people on board?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like from the Snyder Cut, there's a lot of things that I was just like, "Oh, why are they bringing that in now?" Or that's from a comic book fan, like from a source material fan, I was just like, "Oh, that's a bit kind of bringing that in now is a bit weird and stuff like that, and not explaining it in any kind of way is a little bit like I know you're trying to tease us and stuff like that, but I don't know if that's going to work really well as much as well as you think and stuff, but." I'm never going to turn around and just be like, well, the film shit because of those reasons. I'm more just like, I, as a fan, would not do it that way if I was put into the position kind of thing. But it's filed, accepted. Let's go continue on down this track and see what happens, kind of thing. Like, it's like later on, I will just continue to complain about it. But I'm never going to be like it should never have been made.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked about the end game. We've talked about how Thor and Hulk kind of got shafted. I will never say that it shouldn't be made. I just say that I would have made it different.
Which is the beauty of this whole thing. Paul, I'm giving us the 4-minute warning because we're getting out inside the hour this week. Would you like to check the comments or would you like to start the wrap up? Will we check the comments?
I think check the comments one last time and then probably continue on the wrap up.
The physical one. Oh shit! You better pick one up. I'm trying to work out where we were.
You'd love to introduce him a new, brand new non-comic hero. Yeah.
Okay,
it'd be interesting.
And I see the Irish Barrow makes a great point, by the way. Another excellent point from you. No new people, then the thing dies. That's the other thing, especially as I'm getting older and I'm surrounded by more and more older people who like the things I like or some of the things I like, and they're like, oh no, well, if you don't know where the first Grand Prix was held, then you don't know anything. It's like, great, be quiet now because there's going to be no future for this sport if younger people don't like it. Same thing with cinema and same thing with the parts of cinema that you might like. It's a great point. Thank you for making it. I wish we had.
I do, yeah. I'm gonna skip the cats part, but no. Hilarious.
Can I?
Oh, okay.
Remember,
go for it.
Release the butthole cut was a thing. I didn't know that, but now that I do, my night is ruined because I'm on the internet. Because it was a different version of cats.
You're gonna be put on a list.
Oh God, I really am.
End of tonight.
Yeah, better get a VPN or something. My granny's trying very hard to get more people in the family to play bridge to keep the game alive. There you go. Great point. I'd love to learn bridge, by the way. It seems quite the fun but complicated game.
So DM us if you have if you want, DM us with some details of bridge learning classes. Don't do that. Superman the animated series, just the best Superman. I agree. The DC animated universe, DC animated alone, like it isn't even is great. Like I don't understand if you're looking at the DC universe on Justice League or Batman versus Superman or Wonder Woman was great as well, kind of thing. If you're really liking the good parts of those, go to the animated series, go to the animated movies. They are absolutely great. I don't understand how they could be so good, and then we have the live action version, and you're sitting there going just get someone from the writers, someone from the animated writers, please.
Folks, when he's this happy and passionate, I know it's time to start heading over to the walking out, because this is going to mean the best analytic tickling delivery ever, Paul. With that much happiness in you, let the people out there know what they can do to support us and how to get us out to others. What's
good? If you like the show, share us out. Share us out to everybody you can. As Patrick says, even if you have a bunch of people that you don't like, share us out to them, because you can just torture them with us. Because our discussion is great. Like this video, which goes subscribe as well. Contact us on here on Heroes YouTube as well on all the social things. We're always happy to discuss a little bit more movies, or we even love your ideas of movies and stuff like that. Comment down below. Check out the rest of our library and stuff like that. Comment down below your take on the Snyder Cut based on fandom. Is it a good idea that the Snyder Cut exists because the fans wanted it, or is this a bad idea and we could further go down this road? Kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad it does, and I'm glad we got to talk about it, and it's a great complicated subject where we could go on all night. So with that, Paul, thank you for doing the beg stuff. I'm going to do one more social call out. We've started doing a little game on Sundays, folks. Watch out for our tweets on Sundays. There's a little guess the name of the movie from a few pictures, or guess the name of the movie star. I don't know what's lined up for this Sunday. Get your answers in. I know a few of our regular commenters have been in there with some brilliantly funny guesses. So thank you all for that. Paul, I say, if you can do one more thing out there, people, be nice to each other. Because anytime we have to talk about fandom, the one thing I'd love to see is more inclusivity, a lot of positivity, and we all get to benefit from it. So on that happy, cheery note, watch the DC animated series is Paul's plea to you.
Yeah.
My plea to you is join us again if you can. I have been Patrick.
Every Thursday, 8 p.m. GMT time. That's when we're together. And okay. I've been Paul.
And we've been Heroes Out. We'll see you again soon, folks.
See you later. Bye.